right, welcome back to First Rounds on Me, a podcast about dating, relationships, love, sex, and everything in between. I'm Steve, along with my co-host and First Rounds on Me founder and CEO, Joe Feminella. If you're completely new to First Rounds on Me, we're a dating app that cuts out the small talk and encourages you to actually go on real dates so you can create a real, genuine connection in person rather than trying to through a phone screen. If you haven't downloaded First Rounds on Me yet, what are you waiting for? Go to the App Store right now, create your profile, find yourself a date, fall in love, and make some beautiful babies. If we're not in your city yet, we're working on it, but please let us know where we should come next. If you're loving the app, please consider leaving us a rating and review on the App Store. This really helps us grow, and we love getting your feedback. And if you have a From success story, we'd love to hear all about it and feature you on our social media. Today's guest is Olya Hill. Olya is a producer and creative director. At 18 years old, she moved from Ukraine to the United States in search of a better life and to pursue her dreams of becoming a professional dancer. She's the creative director for Living Notes, a modern lifestyle brand. Olya is also a professional ballerina, photographer, and mother of 7 children. She brings her passion for the arts and design into all that she does, as she shows her audience that raising a family in the city is not only possible, but enjoyable. Olya, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so impressed.
Oh yeah,
You definitely did your homework. Wow.
a little bit. Yeah, I've been sitting outside your house for weeks now. But yeah, it's great to have you. So here's the thing. So I was thinking about this. You do all these incredible things, all these different endeavors, and at the core of it all, I'd say you're a creator, right?
Right.
So maybe you can kind of give us some context in terms of what you've been up to lately and what you're working on now, because there's so much over the years that I've
There's so
dug
much
into.
over the years, you're right. And it's also not all at the same time. It all came in stages. So yeah, my first career was dancing. That's how I ended up in US. My professional career started from like 13 or so. So that was my teenagehood and stuff. And then at 18, I moved to US to dance and then I ended up going to college here and all of that. Then I got my green card. Then I met my husband and then the next like about 20 years or so, not 20, about 15 years, but 20 years total. That was the dancing part. And then towards the end of the dancing years, because it's beautiful, it's wonderful. I knew I never wanted to teach, and I also knew I didn't want to perform forever. So, by age of like 30 something, I already been in it for 20 years.
Is that considered old in that world?
Not necessarily today.
Okay.
Not today. It used to be, but not today. And I think the best dancers are the ones in their 40s because they have the emotional depth to actually express themselves. So if they can, if the problem usually comes with injuries and you just end up moving away from it because your body doesn't let you. But I started assisting. I grew up, my dad was a art photographer. So I grew up kind of in the dark room and surrounded by that. And I started assisting because as a young dancer, like making it all the way to the top, like you don't make much money. So you always have another job. So I started assisting as a photographer assistant because of experience I had. Little by little, it kind of became a second thing, and I really, really loved it. And on its own, and it gradually just developed into a production. And we started a small production company, started working on different commercials, mostly commercial projects and things. And it transitioned, and it became my new thing. And so currently, we worked with so many different things from Nat Geo to like you name it, we probably worked with them. Like my favorites ones are the Nat Geo cars. I'm very partial to BMWs but those are my favorite projects. And we're working right now on the new upcoming publication that's a travel and culture related blend. I wish I could say more, but I'm very excited. That's the reason I'm traveling a lot. And then, that's
amazing.
That's in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah. And Joe and I are both very fortunate to have really supportive families and loving families. And I know that your parents encouraged you to pursue your dreams, right? And move. How was that like actually leaving?
Not really.
Oh, they didn't? Okay.
No, my story is the opposite. Mine was you can have everything you want in your life. All my family is in Ukraine still, which is really hard right now, like really hard. Because they don't want to move. They want to be there. And their stance was you can have everything you want, but dancing. here on our rules.
Why was that?
Because it wasn't, I mean, it was 90s. It wasn't perceived as a actionable, like, career, serious career. Everybody there is a lawyer or a doctor. That's what you become. So I was to be a lawyer or doctor, and like school worked different there. And I graduated high school at 16, and I actually skipped a year or two. So I started college, like university, at 16. I did a year of law school and a year of medical school, and I said, screw it all. I'm gonna pack, and as soon as I turned 18, I just left. So my way was the highway. So it was the grand $300, and then let's make it work. And nobody thought I could. So
yeah, it's so interesting that how our parents want us to be as safe as possible, right? And they think that you coming to the United States to dance is very risky, and they're like, don't do that,
100%.
right? But it's funny because well, it's not funny, but I'm sure that they think right now, being in Ukraine, where, obviously there's a war going on, that it's probably less risky than you being here, just because like they don't realize like the risks they took for us are way more dangerous and risky, than what we're doing, because they gave us those opportunities. So it's interesting how the parent-child, mindset looks.
Yeah. I mean, it's I know they wished well, and they thought that they're doing the best, but like that was their approach. And I don't know if they would do anything different, to be honest. And I don't know if it would even be good for me if they did anything different. So
at what point did they feel comfortable and like see, okay, you went there to dance, but now you actually have a career and you have money and you have children? Were they like relieved and said, okay, this is okay?
I don't think they ever will be, to be
they're
honest.
still...
And like, especially now that I'm divorced and like all of that, like that really, I don't think they ever will be. I think they think that I made a grand mistake.
Really?
Wow.
So with my personal, like, I love my family and we have a good relationship, but it's just, we see some things completely different. Like, I personally never thought I would have 7 kids. I was always from a family of like 1, 2, and a culture of 1, 2. I thought 1, maybe 2, and about now, not in my 20s. But life switched completely differently through, its own thing. And timing just worked out. I met my ex-husband, but we had a couple of years that he had to finish school, and so I figured if we were to ever have kids, this is a quieter time rather than being as a dancer, you tour, it's very demanding. So I was teaching at the university, and I thought this is more of a calmer time to try to have kids, and that's how I ended up with 7 because he wanted a big family, and I was like, well, for as long as I can keep working and I can keep dancing, like we would like 1 at a time, I'm okay. Like if I feel like I can and I have it in me, then we'll try. But my family, like that was a big thing for them too. Is like 7 kids.
That's too many.
Too many.
Wow.
Definitely too
and
many.
all the 7 kids are with your ex-husband?
The same.
Okay.
The same guy. Yeah.
Wow. Super interesting.
Yeah, fascinating. I actually wanted to look at an Instagram post that you put. I really like the caption that you put up from I think very recently, talking about how travel and how it changes you for the better.
Oh yeah.
And I think so you said it forced you to grow, right? And then you go into some details here, like you say, you're growing when you hit a delete on a passive aggressive text, no matter who it came from, and opt for let's talk about this in person instead, right? Yeah. So I think because I saw a lot of parallels to what we're trying to do with the app and just talking about dating and relationships in general. So I wanted to talk more about lessons you've learned from your travels and seeing different cultures and how it relates to relationships.
Well, first you learn that there is no color, no religion, no anything. There is no barriers at all. Like when you connect with someone, we connected and we made friends with that became family. Became someone you love that they are across the globe. They are somewhere on completely different continents. So none of that really matters. You connect on heart, soul, whatever your belief is level, but you really connect. That's one. You see, I feel like travel, and I think everybody should travel. That's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about what we're doing, because I really believe in that upcoming project. But I think everyone should travel to understand people, to take themselves out of their comfort zone, to take themselves out of whatever they were conditioned to believe in, because all your beliefs crash when you actually see with your own eyes something that maybe you were taught different, or something you believe to be different, or even something you've heard, but then you just see things that are so different, something that's missed that you just can't see, that is on the video. Because when you see a video, it's someone's perception of whatever area it is. It's not the area necessarily itself. How it relates to dating, I think it just opens your horizons and opportunities, makes you a better person too. You become more patient. You learn from different cultures. You see, to me, one of my biggest, I think, most incredible places, there are two, but one of the most incredible one is Tanzania, because there they somehow preserve the still genuinity, where people are so pure, so genuine. You know, you can, in a modern Western society, you second guess who thinks what. Are they going to talk about me? Are they going to go to, I don't know, their guys are going to talk about girls are going to talk about guys, etc. You don't feel that when you travel, especially when you go to Tanzania. Like, you just feel safe. You feel, I don't know, you just feel connected. You feel that you can be yourself. And that comes with their openness and their purity and their kindness, and them just being their genuine self. So in relation to dating, I think that's the core of it all.
Yeah. I think purity is a great word, because I was thinking, you know, especially in Los Angeles, you never know why someone, if there's other ulterior motives or other reasons someone wants to get to know you or try to, you know, use you or leverage you for something else, especially in this like weird little.
You guys telling me like my list of directors is this big because of the dating apps?
Yeah, right.
Because every guy is like, hey, can I be on your list?
Right, exactly.
So yeah.
And I think also what you said about you know, getting out and actually seeing something in the real world is the same that we always preach with dating, right? Because we always say you really can't know somebody through the app, right? Whether you're talking to them all day for weeks, right? You won't know until you actually get in front of them and feel the vibe and get a real connection. So,
yeah. And I was going to say, like, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about living in a big city, right? Specifically New York. So when you go to New York, everybody's so different, right? So it's really hard to not talk to people who are very different than you. And that could be, like you said, religion, politics, literally anything. And when I moved to New York, like growing up, you know what you know, right? You know what your parents teach you, you know what your neighborhood teaches you, and it's very small, very closed-minded, and it's really hard to get out of that mindset. When you move to New York City, everyone's different. So, you know, it's so easy to just be like, hey, like, why do you believe this thing? And they tell you, and it's like very tangible, and you're like, I never thought about it that way. And then you meet somebody else who thinks the complete opposite of them and the complete opposite of you. And then you start to form all these opinions about these people. That's kind of this like organic, real sense of, oh, everyone's different. You know, just because they disagree with me doesn't mean I'm right or they're wrong. We just all grew up a different way. And like in the big city, it's beautiful because everyone is so different, you know? And that's my favorite part of, it's not really travel for us because we're from New York. But yeah, when I would go to other countries or other cities, it's like seeing how people live. And I guess in a way, like being from New York and America, it's like we do have life a lot easier, right? Like I went to Colombia once and I was in the outskirts of the country and I saw how people lived and I was like, oh my God, that's so bad. But they were so happy. And I was like, they have no idea. They're just happy. Yeah. And then the things that we complain about, I'm like, wow, that's really sad.
That was especially when we went to Tanzania, like coming back, it took me some time to integrate back into LA life because exactly that. People are so happy and with so little. But I agree with you also on the point of being in New York and everybody being different, because it's like everybody is right and everybody's wrong at the same time.
Right.
Because there's no one universal, and that's what you see when you travel. There is no one universal right. There is no one universal religion. There is no one universal belief. The only true things that stay is our hearts beat the same. Our blood is red. Everybody bleeds that. And we're all going to die. So those are universal truths that just stay true.
Yeah.
So.
And it's so funny, like when you're a kid, right? When you're 4 or 5 years old, you can meet any other kid and you just feel the energy of that kid and you probably like the kid and you just have a good time and you play. And then as you get older, you subconsciously learn all these things to like and not like, and who to hate and who not to hate. Whereas like you're saying, if you just take people for their emotions and their energy and that's it, that's how the whole world should be. And that's how kids live.
Exactly. Exactly like that. I don't know if it's because I travel. When I traveled, I always try to bring my kids with me. So my oldest one, like they dragged everywhere. They grew up in like green rooms and on stage because I felt like it would be really good for them to get exposed. And my kids don't see color. And I don't know if it's just new generation. I hope it is. I hope all the new generation that's coming. But there was one of my daughters, she was talking to me about her friend once. And I said, like, well, which one is the friend? And she's like, well, it's the girl with the braids. And I'm like, okay, well, there's like 20 of them with the braids. I go, the girl in the pink sweatshirt. And then I pick her up once, and it's a black girl. Not once did it come up. It's a black girl.
That's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's amazing.
It was pink sweatshirt. It was braids. It was like this one, like not once. Same like other ones too. Like they have friends of like different, genders and gender orientations, and none of them see like, oh, like you are this, so you can't be my friend. It's just one universal thing, and I hope that's just what the new generation is coming to be like.
Did
Yeah.
you ever see the commercial? I think it's gone so viral now that it started off as a YouTube video, and it was the little black baby and the little white baby, and they hadn't seen each other for like, I don't know, a year because of COVID, and they were on the same street and they saw each other down the street and they ran to each other and gave a hug. And then the whole messaging of the commercial is like, these kids don't see that they're different. They just missed each other and we're so happy to see each other. And yeah, I wish it continues that way where kids and the world see each other as nothing but their energy.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said about, realizing that race doesn't matter, religion. Because we had a guy on the podcast that we actually published yesterday, Dr. Ali, and he was talking about there's 8 things, and this is from studies, 8 things that don't matter in relationships or that don't predict long-term relationships like success or happiness that people think really matter. And he was talking about race doesn't matter, religion doesn't matter, height doesn't matter, job doesn't matter. So it's like things that a lot of us have these, we have these little checklists of what we want from a partner, but then we find out in the long run, like these things actually don't matter. Whereas what you're saying, we're actually getting to, the person and their soul and all that stuff is what
100%.
really matters. So it's interesting to see how that study, which is like probably done by some sort of, doctor or something, is lining up with your real world experience from seeing all these different places.
100%. And having been in a long-term relationship and having gone through, we were married in the church twice because it was his religion, my religion. And I didn't even grow up religious. It just kind of came later on. He was religious, so I honored his tradition, and then it just went into things. And then it ended, and it didn't end badly. It just ended. And it was a long-term relationship, and then it came a point where it served its purpose. And this is something that I am really hoping that whoever is listening to this can also see the other side of the conversation about relationships, because all relationships end. For some people, they end with the death of a loved one and when they are, 90 years old. For other people, they may end sooner. And that doesn't make it be a failed relationship or a bad relationship or something gone wrong or you've done something wrong. It just served its purpose. And then there is a next chapter, whatever that next chapter is. And of course, everybody wants to, when we're never looking to divorce when we're getting married. We're never looking to break up when we're starting dating. But I think as I went through dating and rediscovering the dating world and then trying to figure this out and a lot of self-work too, that one concept has become probably the foundation of all that. It doesn't, I think, when you treat the relationship as a present moment, that's when it has a chance to last forever. Because if you get, let's say in a very long-term relationship or even a marriage, how many marriages fail very shortly after people may have been dating for 10 years, 15 years, they get married and they get divorced within a year or two. There's something that shifts when we feel like we are in this space with the partner that we just, you obviously want to be safe, of course, but it becomes taken for granted.
Mm-hmm.
We stop growing. We stop thinking about ourselves. We stop going forward. We stop
Going down on each other. I mean, it happens.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
All these things add up.
That too.
Yes.
That too. And especially, when you bring in kids into the equation too, like that puts a whole other dynamic on things. But I think when you take it one day at a time and being in the present moment, that's when you continue growing in it together, hopefully together. There's another very interesting conversation that I had with a friend. She is in her 60s and she's an incredible therapist. And one thing that she said is that everybody wants a long-term perfect relationship. And nobody realizes that they can have it all in the relationship, just not at the same time. Because when you have passion in the early stages of a relationship, you are craving for stability and you want to know that this is going to go on, but those cannot exist together. When you get stability, comes with a routine. Routine doesn't come with that first heat, like first few months, I don't know, like of the new relationship, honeymoon phase. Yeah. Then from stability, we move, and lots of people, she said that in her practice, lots of people don't move past the stage of stability. Past stability comes intimacy. So it's 3 stages: the honeymoon phase, the passion, then there's the stability, and then there's the intimacy. And intimacy is not sex. It's actually being your truest open self with the other person. And if you get through that, which many people don't, but if you get through that, then you cycle back to the passion, but you're a level up. So your honeymoon stage is deeper. Then you're going to crave stability. Your stability is going to root deeper. And then that's how you go. Just go loop by loop. And there is no time stamp on how long it takes to get through those 3 stages. It's based on individual couple themselves and people themselves as well. And for some, it may take a few years. For some, it may take a decade. For some, it may take more than that. It just depends on.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I never heard that.
Yeah.
It's
I've
like
never
Russian
heard that
dolls, like
before.
stacking the dolls.
Kind
and then,
of, yeah.
Yeah.
But as she said most people today quit once the honeymoon runs out. They want more stimulation, and end up, constantly dating, constantly going, constantly ending the relationships 2-3 years into it because they feel like, oh, it died. Now I need to move to a different person. It's not going to work out. Not really understanding that it didn't die. It just may need extra effort to keep that part going while you are rooting into something completely different so that it can get even deeper.
Wow.
That is super deep and amazing. I've never heard of it that way either. And I think that I actually could seriously relate. So like when I met my fiance, it was the honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
And I put this guard on of like, okay, how could I be like the coolest version of myself that she's going to be attracted to? And then after that honeymoon phase ran out, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want this. Like, we're starting to fight, and we broke up. And when we got back together, like there was such that strong, deep connection. And I was like, wow, it's really rare for me to be so attracted to somebody, but also have that energy and that love that, you rarely find. And when we got back together, I remember, because now we live together, I act like my true self, right? Like I don't hold anything back anymore, right? And I could be very annoying, and I could, I have all my weird quirks, and it doesn't bother her at all. And like we've gotten to that place of like, I could be myself, which is so amazing. And I think subconsciously that you just mentioned that, it's reminding me like, oh, we're getting back to that passion phase because like we're both so happy just being ourselves.
Because
that's
exactly.
amazing.
And that's probably the ultimate best relationship where you can be your genuine self with someone else. That's
Yeah. And you touched on something else. You said, self-work and growth, right? Like for me, that's super important. Is like, how do you find a balance of being your true self, but also like wanting to get better and grow not only by yourself, but with somebody else, and like keep molding. Like I think molding your life with somebody else is not like a one-time thing where it's like, okay, we lived together, we molded, and that's it. It's like, okay, how do you mold together, but keep growing together and alone? And I'm curious like how you handled that through divorce and now, post-divorce.
Well, I mean, I think whenever you go through hardship, this is when you grow the fastest. And I wish there was a different way, but there isn't. It forces you, whether you are ready or want it or don't want it, it's just going to throw you into that. My relationship with the self growth and self improvement has been for years. I mean, I've been trying to figure this thing out. I started discovering the self growth thing in my 20s. And then I always was a mentality that I can just get something done and then I'm good. And I got it. I done. And then it came late with work, with age and experience that this is constant thing and you just keep doing it. I don't know if there is one formula, to be honest, like to just, this is how you do it and this is how it's done. For me, it comes in waves. And I know that when I start getting a little bit slacking on this, I will see it backfiring, whether I'm not happy or I'm not content. I'm not in the place where I want to be. Like personally, I don't have that inner balance. So that means that I need to find ways. And there's so many ways today, especially in LA. Like there's so many ways where how you can work on yourself. When you do it with partner, I think one of the best ways is just doing something you love together.
Yeah.
And that is something that brings you closer together. I mean, something that you share. That's where deep conversation come. I'm a big fan. Everybody on our team knows, like, I'm a fan of those like Q&A cards. I even have a Q&A question, like kind of a rundown list that has nothing to do with seemingly with work, but I run it even by clients because it helps me to profile them. I understand by what their favorite color, favorite food, and all those kind of things, what they like. But then also there hasn't been one single time where I was running these questions and one of the questions didn't expand into something bigger. And that's why I love the questions too. I think at any time, it's such a great way of growing together. There's something else that one of my friends, we were talking about, that she mentioned as a practice of just spending 5 minutes, like once a week, and just asking your partner how they are doing and just be listening without judgment, without them telling you what they want, what you want to hear, just how they are doing. Just that, how they're feeling, how they're doing, what's on their mind, what's heavy, what's light, what's happy. And I think if we could all implement that just with everyone, including like kids, whatever, but especially partners, it's incredible because you realize that there may be something that is worrying them that is so simple to fix, or maybe you didn't even realize, maybe you were playing a part in that or something. And then, then you can take it up a level, like something that annoys you or something that you love or something that just, etc. And just talk, no judgment, no, just a very free, safe zone.
That is beautiful.
Let's do it right now. How are you doing? How are you feeling in this room and then
I'm actually
in
doing
life?
really good. I'm in this room, very comfortable. Love meeting you guys. It's such a pleasure. Thank you. In life, I am looking forward to this new chapter, but the last year has been challenging, especially pandemic. Pandemic changed everything. So I feel like I'm finally regaining the ground under my feet, but probably best I've been in a while.
That's great.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that 5 minute, just asking your partner how they feel for 5 minutes, another thing that's a different way to look at something so powerful, right? Especially like men understanding women, right? I think even I can relate to this where we are so solution based that when, Hannah comes to me or a woman comes to a man and says like, hey, like this is how I'm feeling, immediately we turn our solution on, right?
Yeah.
And it makes the problem so much worse because they probably know the solution already and they don't really want a solution. They just want to
100%.
vent. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think that's super important. Just being like, hey, here's 5 minutes, just tell me how you feel. I'm not going to try and solve anything. I'm just going to listen. And then hopefully that helps you feel better about whatever is bothering you.
You're so on point because that's me too. Like, I don't want a solution. If I want a solution, I come say, I have a problem. I need a solution. But when I'm coming and I'm just talking about something, sometimes I just want to talk about it. I know what to do, and then I'm just going to go and fix it. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like when we do come up with a solution and we get pushback, it becomes like an argument, right? And it's like, well, I'm right because I gave you the solution. And then they're like, well, I didn't want the solution. And then when you start to fight, it's like when you fight with somebody that you want to win a fight, right? Like either I win or you win. And when you get in that mentality with someone you love, it's really bad because like if I win the fight, that means that someone I love loses the fight. Do I want her to lose? No. So like, why even get to that fight in the first place?
Exactly. Well, this is one of the things that I also learned. Like, one of the things I've learned post-divorce is that our communication in marriage sucked. We had zero. And I think he tried to impress me so much that it went to the point of, I don't know, just somewhere he tried to and he didn't need to, but he really wanted to. And it went to the point where it became his world and my world, and those worlds didn't coexist anymore. But one thing I've learned post-divorce is, first, that we didn't argue even in the marriage, but there is really no reason for argument because there's always a middle ground. The only challenge comes is actually listening to a person and not reacting to it. And that's where the self-work and all this comes in very handy, because it is hard to be listening to someone on something that you don't agree with or you see something differently, and not to be reacting to them in your way. But if you truly try and see the other person's point of view, there is always middle ground. There is always a middle ground. You can always find something that works for both of you.
Yeah. I feel like also even just with that, like even just taking a few seconds to think about, like actually listening first of all, but then take a few seconds to think about what the person's saying. Because if you don't take that time, you're probably just being reactive. Like you said, like instead of actually taking in the information, seeing what they have to say, understanding what they're saying, and then responding accordingly instead of reacting.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think that's why alcohol is so bad, right? When it comes to fighting, because, you know, like Hannah and I grow and understand each other so much better than we ever did, right? But then once alcohol gets involved, I think you lose that couple of seconds of like, don't react, just think. And, you know, you're already, you know, your mind's already going a different way because you're drinking and you just react right away. And it's like, when you're sober, you're like, well, why did I react that way? Why didn't I just take a second to like understand what was going on and then just talk? And I think that's why sometimes alcohol is like a real big issue with people fighting.
100%, but it's also the reason why is because there's some sort of triggers. So something got triggered. That's, again, coming back, that's where the self-work.
Yeah.
And it's never-ending field.
For sure. You said something interesting on another interview that I saw, and you said you had to find yourself and know yourself before becoming a mom.
Yeah.
Do you feel, because that's important, obviously, and we can get into that, but also for relationships, right? In terms of
100%.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think, you know, we talk a lot about that, like being okay, you know, being by yourself, being able to be by yourself before.
You have to be your own self before you can enter any relationship. That doesn't mean that, you know, I see a lot of these like coaches and everything say you have to be 100% healed. To be honest, I don't believe that. I don't think anybody is 100% healed. We all have our baggage, and the more years add on, the more come with it. But you do need to be your own wholesome person, happy with what you have. Because if and when you're looking for a relationship as a way of filling that void that's within you for whatever reason, that relationship is bound to become toxic, because it's going to be a toxic relationship to the person that you're with, or that person is going to react, it's going to become toxic to you. But in either way, it's going to be unhappy. It's going to either end up in extremely two miserable people and everyone who's involved with those people, or it's just going to break. Well, it's going to break either way, just whether they will still be together or not while the relationship is broken. So being your own self also helps you understand what it is that you actually want. Because when I was like my first boyfriend, I was like 16 or something. If you ask what I wanted then, and then what I wanted at 20, and like my 20 was maybe a little bit different than normal people's 20, but still, then 30, then today, those are all very, very, very different, even wants. But also, I think the more wholesome and self, I don't know even the right word for this, the more of genuine self you can be, the less of the societal limitations come to you, and the less of the cultural limitations, I don't know, everything, whatever can limit the relationship from being good, actually affect you. Because you have that inner confidence of selecting what's best for you. And then also you can, only if you are wholesome and fully happy with who you are, then you can be there for your partner. Because in a partnership, you're going to face all sorts of things, I'm sure, as you guys know. But if you don't know who you are, if you are in some sort of a situation where you're filling your personal needs with the other person, when they need you, you're not going to be there to show up for them. You just won't have it in you.
Wow.
And to me, our relationship is where the two wholesome, completely happy people come together. They are happy on their own, and they can be on their own for whatever. The relationship is not a must for happiness. When they are together, then they create something better together. And that just keeps on growing as they grow. Whether they grow together, but as they even come little by little, somebody is above the other person, and they pull each other up, and it just keeps on growing.
Yeah,
and going
absolutely.
forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think when we first started the company, actually, it was like, oh, what's our voice, right? Like, how can we be successful? And we were trying to find these different niches, but nothing felt right. And I was like, you know what? Like, I made this app to be genuine, right? And like, I feel best being genuine. And I slowly started to realize, because you touched on being genuine, right?
Yeah.
And I slowly started to realize, like, if you're really genuine and you're doing things based off of being genuine, that's going to help you in everything you do. And you don't need to kind of be cutthroat in business. And I think today it shows that the more genuine you are, the farther you'll get ahead, because people actually believe in you. And like, you actually need a team around you to create something great. And if you're genuine, those people are going to believe in you so much more, and it just makes that greatness so much better.
100%. That's just it's very, I don't know. It's a very profound truth as well. Yeah. Staying genuine is the one and only way to go.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about, and you don't have to get like too personal, but now that you're back like in the dating world, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is a good first date? Like, what do you like to do? What would be
My personal thing. So when I went on my first, it took me a while, first of all, like to even come around to dating. I didn't even know if I wanted to date after like the divorce. And then it took a while, and then there's son that came on the horizon for me too. But I take it as chill as possible, because I remember the very first time when I went to my first date, and my knees were shaking. Literally, I was in Uber. I was like, my palms are sweating. My knees are shaking. I was trying to I called a friend. I'm like, what do even people wear for dates? Like, I don't even know. And then finally, the guy was really cool. And it was one of the dating apps. And I messaged him. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be coming from work. So I'm just let's go meet somewhere like where it's chill. I'll be in my like jeans and whatever. It's whatever. I did that, which I do whenever I pitch investors or whenever I'm in the big, important meeting. I wear whatever I'm most comfortable in, and I do whatever it is where I feel most genuine in, because if I don't, that's not going to go well anywhere. So that was my thing. And so that stayed. I am a very low key. I'm not, I don't know, maybe it came with age and experience, but I think the heart-to-heart connection is more important than anything else. And it cannot be bought. It cannot be impressed on by, I don't know, expensive dinner or something, because it doesn't really matter. Feelings can be bought. There either are or not. Some of the best dates, if you will, like were the times we ended up just talking throughout the entire night with nothing else, because you get to know the person, get to know who it is that you're talking with. Drinks are always great. That's I think you're a genius for that. But drinks are always great because they're so relaxing and chill, and it can be anything, and you just have an easy atmosphere, and you also have an easy way of getting out should anything go wrong. That's you can say I gotta go because it's time for something else, and you can just get out very easily.
So what was the first date? Like, was it a drink you met this guy
it was
for?
a drink, yeah.
Okay.
And it was I just met up with a guy for drinks, and we ended up talking, and I did not stay longer than 2 hours. I guess he planned dinner, which I did not realize he did, but I got to, then kids were with me, and so I got to make my mom rounds and got to get back to them. And he was very surprised that when I texted a couple of days later to see, because he figured that on his side was that the date went so wrong because I didn't even stay for dinner and I got away fast. But yeah, drinks are always easy.
That's awesome. And then I guess my other question is, how long did you communicate with him before you felt comfortable enough to meet him for a drink?
Not that long. Like we chatted for a couple days. I think it was, I don't remember one of the dating apps that there was, but we chatted for a couple days, and then he invited to meet for the drinks, and that's as soon as I was available.
That's
that was
awesome.
the first available.
And it was also, I mean, a couple of days, but it was also your first date, right?
Yeah.
So that I don't know if that would be your norm or if it was a little different because it was your first date, but even so, like a couple of days is good.
I don't have any like, oh, this is how the first date should be. It's whatever it flows into. So some dates are one picture, the other ones are completely different. But again, and it also depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
First date for someone that you want to have a very long relationship is very different from if you're just looking for just a hookup.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so fascinating because doing all this stuff, we talk to a lot of people, we meet a lot of people and read a lot of stuff. And my Instagram Explore page is now like 90% relationship advice and therapy stuff. But like, for example, like we heard this woman speak, and she coaches people, mostly women, on dating and relationships. And she has a 1 hour hard out every first date, which I think is kind of crazy because if it's going well and I understand her reasoning behind it, but like, I feel like you end up watching the clock and you're not really like maybe as present as you can be if you have all these little stipulations. So it's just very interesting to see. And I think that's kind of what we preach is like, because I've said in the past, like I don't date much up until this last year when I started actually going on more dates. And I'm like, oh shit, I should have done this a lot sooner because I'm actually learning so much about myself and about what I want, what I don't want, and about women and meeting people. And it's like, you don't actually know. Like you can read all the rules and you can read all these different things, but until you actually do it yourself, you're not going to know. So I think sometimes it's good to have some of these guidelines just to maybe help you get started, but you have to actually go out and do it, and then you'll kind of learn.
That's my take on all the guidelines, and has always been like I will do a parallel with raising kids. Like when I was raising kids, there was no Instagram, there was no self-help or anything. There was one book. And then they started to come out with other ones, and everybody claimed their own to be right, as they do in the relationships. And there's so many, and believe me, like with my Instagram, especially after I got divorced, I got so many women writing, oh my God, I'm in the same situation. Like, should I leave? Like the first year the first year I didn't tell anybody, but once I announced that I got divorced, there was about 400 more women that got divorced. So that was a big divorce rule that I know of. Those were like those ones I know. So there's those that I don't
That's like
know.
break the first guy that broke the 4-minute mile, right? And then after that next year, there was like 50 people that did it because he opened the gates. You gave women hope to walk away.
Well, I'm very happy that they did, because nobody should stay in that relationship that doesn't work for them. Nobody should. But coming back to to all the guidelines and all the, like right now there's so many coaches and everybody says what's best and everything. I read everything and then I take what works, because that's the only way. We are also such individual beings, such individual humans, that we all have our own life experience. There's no one book that will solve it all, but we can learn something good. And in a different situation, that same book can apply to absolutely different, dates or relationship or something in different situations. So that's my take on it. If it goes well and it's past an hour, I would
Yeah.
stay 10 hours if it goes well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had an example the other day actually because you know, we partnered with this woman who's got a big female audience, and they had me as a guest speaker to kind of just see how men think, right? And you see like these coaches online where it's like if a guy pulls away, like run because he's not for you, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's not true
It's not
because
true. No.
when I met Hannah after our second date, I kind of pulled away a lot, not because I wasn't interested. The complete opposite. I pulled away because I was scared and intimidated that I met somebody who I could see a life with, and it was really scary. And I tried to tell her audience, like, if a guy pulls away, you have no idea what he's thinking. He could actually be so in love with that person that he is shocked and he doesn't know how to react, so he pulls away until he could figure out what's going on.
100% he can pull away because maybe he had a relationship before that somehow I don't know, he could have thought that he never wants to have one and he ends up being with someone that maybe he can see something with. Or maybe something gets triggered. Or maybe he just has so much on his mind that, I don't know. Girls pull away too, and not because they're not interested, but because there could be something else going on. We're not always in the perfect state of perfectly running relationship either. We're sometimes wake up and this day is just not going well. And that just can happen. So yeah, no, I agree. There's no, I learned not to put rules on things.
Yeah.
So at this point in your life, like whether you're looking or not looking for something, but what qualities do you look for in a man that has, you know, for like a long-term successful relationship?
Honesty and ability for him to be himself, fully himself. That's the only two qualities that I look for. Oh. Loyalty kind of goes with honesty, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I guess if he's being himself and he's not loyal or honest, then you'd be like, he's not for me. So it kind of fits under that umbrella anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Like, money doesn't matter. Anything doesn't. Not because I really don't believe that. I think maybe lots of women won't agree, but I don't believe that he should be a provider. She should be homemade, I don't know, mom, whatever. I don't believe in that. Maybe I'm too European for this, but I strongly believe if you're raising kids, like your partners first and foremost, and raising children, that's one of the reasons I have probably the best relationship with my ex-husband now than we've ever had before, because we're partners, we're raising the kids. But I think everything throughout my life, we had really high highs and we had really low lows. We had everything, we lost everything. And so everything can be built over and over again. But you can't have, sometimes you only get once in a lifetime chances to find somebody who you really truly connect with. And that is something that no money can buy. No status. And status doesn't matter. You know, we were in Rangiroa just a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the islands from French Polynesia. It's 300 people total. I'm a city girl. I don't like this like little thing. I tried suburbs for 6 months. That's how long I lasted because everybody told me that's what you should do when you have kids. I lasted 6 months, and after that I moved. I'm like, I can't do this. We were moving back into Manhattan. Like, we were just staying there. But there was human to human connection there that it can't really be explained. And you have to feel it, but they did not have the luxuries we do. There are people that literally fished their dinner and that was it. Like that's their dinner. But there was love, connection, and somehow life had meaning.
Yeah.
And that's what relationships, I hope, would bring to people, is that deeper meaning that is, I don't know, a light for you when things get really dark for you personally, that you cling to it because that's your lighthouse, guiding star, name it, whatever. Sometimes you do things for someone because even if you don't want to do it yourself, you push yourself because you really love them and care about them, and you want to do it because you know you being there or you being at a certain level or you're doing something that important is gonna make them happier too. And I think if both people come from that place, then that relationship is unbreakable. And again, that's not something you can buy with money.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, when when people want to be in a relationship for money, right? And I'm just going to speak from women wanting a guy who's well off. Like you said, there's no substance to that relationship. So even if you look at it from the guy's point of view, where he's actually looking for something of substance, he's going to think, well, you only want to be with me because I make X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
So say I say yes and we have a relationship, and then you meet somebody who makes more money than me. What's to stop you from going to that person? Because
Exactly.
there's no substance to our relationship.
Exactly. Same goes like when, girls pretty themselves to look right for the certain guy, like because he likes it like that. Again, a lot of Eastern Europeans girls, like that's a mentality there that you need to look a certain way for a man to like you. Well, and the number one problem in marriages is what? Cheating. Because when they get married, she's not going to look that way once women try, every girl wants to look good, but some things just happen and we all age. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you try to look young, but nobody dies looking like they are 18. Everybody has wrinkles. Everybody's going to have something. So, that's just, appearances are just that. Appearances, they change. The heart doesn't. The soul doesn't.
Yeah, I think that is, if like people could learn one thing about relationships and love, if they really honed in on that,
Yeah.
that would help, because people think like, oh, I'm always going to be married to the supermodel who's going to have the best body. And, like you said, that is so not true. And, as you get into your 50s, 60s, 70s,
Exactly.
like it's nothing to do with physical appearance, because we're
No.
all going to look the same.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what does that person do for you personally? And how do they make you feel? And what tests do they do? How do you make each other feel appreciated?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think probably with men, like once someone doesn't look the way they want, they're like, oh, well, I'm not attracted to you. I'm just going to go find someone younger. And then you get into that whole rat hole of, nothing really matters to them,
But that's not love.
Right.
That's just lust, and that's where it ends. And that one is short-lived.
Exactly.
Well, one of my next questions, and you kind of dove into this, but if you have anything to add, is what does love mean to you? And you kind of just covered a lot of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you can think of?
Love is something you can't explain. That's what it is. It's not because of, it's because. It just is. That's just what it is. If I love someone because, and I can list the becauses, then I probably don't love them. When you love someone, you just love them. There is no because. It's just, it can do whatever, and you're still going to love them.
Interesting.
I fully believe that, because like when I met Hannah, I wasn't looking for love at all.
Yeah.
And on our second date, I was like, whoa, this feels so different. It's something I couldn't explain. And she always used to give me shit because she's like, I'm not your type. Because she would think that I had this certain type of person I was attracted to. And I would say, yeah, I thought that was my type, but there's no such thing as a type. When I met you, I couldn't explain it. Like, I just loved you. Like, yeah. I didn't love you because you were blonde. I didn't love you because you were this. It was just there. I don't know. But yeah, I agree.
I think earlier you'd said there were two places that you visited that you want to talk about. One was Tanzania. I don't think, did you ever?
One's around Giroa.
Oh, it was?
The one
Okay.
that I just mentioned.
Okay, perfect. Cool.
Because in Tanzania, when you step on that, I've been to several places in Africa, but in Tanzania, I don't know if it's because they say we all originated and we all came from Africa, but when you step on that ground, you feel like you belong.
Wow.
And people are genuine. Kenya shares a border with Tanzania, and Kenya is completely different. Nature is beautiful and very similar, but people are very different. There's something about Tanzania. The very first human remains of human civilization is found there in Tanzania, which is very interesting too. So that's that. And then the connection with nature, you're just in the place where you really deeply connect with yourself. You understand what matters, what doesn't matter. You see things. It's like the rose, I don't know which, not necessarily rose, but like whatever glasses, shades, whatever, been taken off your eyes, you start seeing things clearer, more clear. With Rangiroa, I haven't spent there too much time, but from what the impression that I've gotten, why it really deeply touched me. You could be the poorest person living in the shack and fishing for your dinner, or you could be the richest person with the biggest house on the street, but it doesn't matter. You would never know. and everyone fits. And I haven't seen a place like that.
Wow.
I haven't seen a place where everyone fit and everyone was friendly to each other. Like that life fluff doesn't matter there.
Is there a big difference there between the richest person and and are they in the same area?
Yeah.
Or-
It's the whole little tiny thing is like 300 people and you can drive 15 minutes from one side to another side.
but even with that small of an area, there is a disparity between the.
There is. You can rent a house that's like $1,500 a week, or you can literally be on the shore and like,
Wow.
yeah. There are some like gated communities, but when you go into like people just mingle together. They're all together. Everybody knows everybody,
Wow.
and yeah, everyone. It's fascinating, but yeah, everybody knows everybody, and there is no I'm better than you because I have more money or I have more something. Nope, it just you are you.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
What's a place on your bucket list that you have not been?
I'm going to Japan in actually a couple of weeks, so that's been the one
wow.
from the bucket list. I have not been to Asia at all, like so that's a very different experience, and it's going to be very different because I've heard from those who have been, as we've been asking, is that there's not much English. There's English in bigger cities, but once you go a little bit out, it's all just Japanese. So it's going to be interesting.
I
We'll
think
see.
that's the only city that we have in common is we've both been to Tokyo.
You've been to Tokyo?
Yeah, my brother
Yeah.
lives there.
Oh,
So if
wow.
you need anything,
I need all recommendations,
yeah.
please. Yeah. So that's Japan. Morocco is another one that somehow it just keeps being like canceled and rescheduled. And Iceland. Those are three
I've
very
been to
different
Iceland as
ones.
well.
You've been to Iceland?
Yeah, Iceland is it's very cool. If you're into nature, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Again, very small country, a very non-westernized. Surprisingly, I think actually Iceland is the only country in the West that doesn't have a McDonald's.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Good for
Very
them.
interesting.
super interesting, but very cool. You have to do the Blue Lagoon.
Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah. Everywhere I go, it's for work projects, so we try to cover as many unique places and find something that's very authentic to the place.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Japan.
nice. Yeah, Japan is my second favorite country.
Which one is your first?
For many different reasons, Israel, because A, historical reasons, right? B, cultural reasons, and then it's so interesting how they're like this little tiny country in the middle of countries that are not, I guess, quote unquote, aligned with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a combination of like Miami, LA, and New York in Tel Aviv, which I found fascinating. Like Tel Aviv have you ever been?
I haven't been. I've been to Egypt, but not.
So Tel Aviv is
recently.
kind of like the hustle and bustle and excitement of New York, but it's got like the beach vibe of Miami. And then like it's so forward and progressive in a country that's, very reserved and religious. So just all the differences in the country and where they are and the history of like, I'm not really religious either, but going to like Jerusalem, I was like, whoa, like same thing as Africa, I assume. But I went there and I was like, wow, this feels strange, like in a great way where you just feel a sense of why do I feel this way? And all this history around me is pretty insane. So that's my favorite place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are both making me realize I don't travel enough. I need to get out more. But there's a quote that you have on the website. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page.
Yeah.
Right, which is such a great quote. And just obviously applying it as travel is the point of it, but applying it to dating kind of touches on what we were talking about before, where it's like, if you just sit home and you never actually go out, like a lot of people are like, I don't meet anybody. Like I hear this all the time from, and this is sometimes I used to think like this, but I don't meet anybody. I never meet anybody new. And it's like, yep, because you're probably in the same routine every single day. Right.
100%. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. And just if you don't go out and try new things and meet new people, you're going to probably just you're going to run the same circles. You're going to meet the same type of person. So, you can do it via traveling, or you can just do it by changing up your hobbies and getting out there and meeting more people and not living through the app, I think is important.
100%. Like after divorce, I had a very, very fast going, too serious for me relationship that I was not ready for, and ended up being a very big heartbreak. But after that friend that I mentioned and the therapist in the beginning, like she's a dear friend, and she's a beautiful like older woman in her 60s. But she said there's a very wise thing. She said, go out and date and just meet people and just get out and just go out for dinner. She's like, I'm so excited for you. Just go out and just be there. And she said, dating doesn't mean that you have to be in a relationship. Like, obviously you're looking for, but when you're going out and meeting other people, it is more about you for a while before it becomes about something that you're going after. Just have no agenda and just go have and enjoy yourself. And I think maybe somewhat culturally too, we, at least I was so conditioned that like you can't. I came from a culture where like you have to like be a good girl and like you need date one guy, and then when that ends and you start you mourn, and then you like find someone else, but hopefully you don't. Like you just being a good girl and all that. But you don't dating more people than just one or this one list that you have. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. Not at all. It's a great thing because you don't know what you want until after you start meeting other people. Same like you don't know if you like, I don't know, like pineapple until you tried pineapple. You don't know if you are going to like Tanzania until you go there. You may hate it on the TV, but when you actually go and meet in person, when you like somehow there's a connection, you don't know how you like a person. You don't know what you really want and what is important to you. So yeah, I'm all for meeting people and
you said something else there that I really like. I forget the exact term you used, but whether it was like no stakes or outcome independent. I think that's really important, especially like a lot of times especially guys can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like, make it the perfect date or put their best foot forward. And because you want the result of like impressing her or him or, trying to portray this image. And if you just go in there with no stakes and just like have a good time and be present, like your best self will probably shine through anyway, or your truest self. Yeah. And the date will go that much smoother. So I think it's good to take the pressure off yourself.
100%. And if it doesn't, then you definitely don't want to be on any more dates with that. Like if you being your true self does not align with the other person, if you can't be genuine and it doesn't work for them, then 100% you don't want to be continuing that because it's not going to end anywhere good.
Yeah, and so many times I think we all hear stories about like, oh, how it was a disaster, but like it was so fun, or it was a disaster, but like we ended up having a great time and we're going to go on a second date, and like people talking like successful relationships looking back at these little mishaps that ended up like spawning this like incredible relationship. So it doesn't matter if like little mistakes happen. It's just like enjoy it and have fun and have a good time.
100%.
I think we're getting close to wrapping it up. Joe, you have anything else?
Yeah. So, I mean, I used to ask this question a lot to our guests and I really liked it, and then kind of slowed down just depending on the guest. But I feel like I would love to ask you this because this has been such an amazing, genuine conversation. But if you could have one law in the world that everybody would have to follow, and it could be crazy, right? Obviously, one law.
Mm-hmm.
What law would it be?
Oh, be honest. Being honest or being your genuine self. That would be the one that if I could implement that law, or maybe reverse that would be maybe be kind.
Okay, love that.
Because we definitely could use more kindness in the world. That for sure.
Love that.
So do you have anything? I know you said you have a project you can't really talk about. Is there anything else you're excited to talk about that's coming up? Or also, we would love to plug yourself on where people can find you.
Are you gonna do the rapid fire?
Thank you.
That's okay.
Yeah, I kind of change them up, and they're not ready yet. But yeah.
I mean, I'm working on the gallery project. That's what I'm really excited for, and it's been a couple of years in the making. At the presentation where we are going to bring a lot of, it's just how to explain it in the right way. Imagine in the dark room, the project is called Souls Unfiltered, and the audience would go into the dark room. There are images of mostly people's faces. Majority of them are from Africa because their eyes talk beyond words. and it's set to music. And as the show goes on, it's about 7-8 minute long show. It just, depending on the cue, it lights up a certain picture and it tells a story.
Wow.
So that one has been a very long and hard kind of to get it done, but it's coming to a conclusion and I'm very excited for it. I can't wait. Like, it's going to show first in Europe, but then I hope to bring it to US.
Oh, so it's not going to be in the US right now?
Not right now. I mean,
Oh,
if somebody
okay.
hears it and wants it to bring it to US first, we would love that. So,
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you talking about that makes me excited to see it. So that's really cool.
Amazing. So is it Olya Hill on Instagram? Okay, so at Olya Hill, and then
No, it's at Living Notes.
Living Notes.
Living Notes, yeah. It ended up, it's actually interesting. Like, my Instagram was a guinea pig for what my ex-husband, he used to work in advertising. So we were testing certain things on my Instagram. So we kind of named it, and then it took off on its own. So
oh, cool.
go figure.
Love
Nice.
that name.
Cool. Any closing thoughts? Anything we can leave people with other than be kind and be honest?
Say a little, do a lot, and be kind.
Love that. Joe, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I was telling you before the show, when we get guests, it's kind of just me reaching out, and sometimes I don't know what to expect. And I had never really spoken to you before today, so I didn't know what to expect coming into this. And I'd have to say, like, I'm so happy with myself that I reached out to you, because you have been an amazing guest. You're giving us so much insightful, genuine feedback. And yeah, it was really an honor to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, shout out to editor Joey. Shout out to Joseph and Joel and Dr. Self Tapes. You can find Joe and I on Instagram at First Rounds on Joe, at Steve Rossiter, and most importantly, at First Rounds on me. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. For now, check out one of our past episodes. Thank you.